Kia ora team and welcome to our 8th video on Achievement Standard 91502 where we're looking at violence on sport, but this particular video we're going to have a brief focus on ideology and look at how that can influence violence in sport. So the learning outcome for today is to discuss how ideology can play an influencing role in that domain of violence in sport. So Flexner in 1987 defines ideology to be the body of doctrine, myth, belief, etc. that guides an individual, social movement, institution, class or large group. So it really is a belief system that creates New Zealand's identity or personality that can form a cultural or sporting atmosphere. So we're going to take a look at two New Zealand ideologies that we could consider when we're looking at violence in sport, and the first one is punching above our weight. Now, we have considerable pride in our sporting ability. We like to believe we regularly punch above our own weight on the international sporting scene, and we have the evidence to prove it. In the London 2012 Olympics, we were 4th on the total medals per capita table, punching well above sporting giants such as USA, who are 48th, Great Britain, who are 23rd, and even Australia, who were 13th. Our best Olympic result on the per header capita table was at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Games, where we finished 2nd, which is pretty impressive. So the per header capita table is essentially a measure of the medals compared to our population at the time of the event. So this passion and drive for success on the international stage has a number of positive benefits for us as a nation, but it can also have its negatives. With these hefty goals come high expectations and pressure on our athletes. Failure to live up to these expectations puts you in the line of fire, both from the public and also national sporting administrators who require successful funding. This desire to and need to win can lead to issues relating to violence in sport, such as overtraining and injury, performance-enhancing drugs, and even verbal abuse through social media and other avenues. You only need to look as far as the recent made-for-TV movie titled The Kick, retelling Stephen Donald's story, to see how athletes can come under pressure or under fire from the public, media, and even other athletes. Hippolyte and Bruce believe that as a country we reinforce ideologies of equality and fairness in sport. Compared to nations such as USA, South Africa and Australia, we've had fairly calm race relations. Hippolyte and Bruce then go on to explain that we protect and celebrate the rights of Māori, we're free from religious restraints, and we believe in the principle that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. So are these ideologies reinforced through sport, or are there still underlying issues? One of the more prominent issues to arise relating to racism in sport occurred in 2010. This is when the former All Black great and captain Andy Hayden suggested that the Canterbury Crusaders had a Māori and Polynesian recruitment ceiling. He says, once they've recruited 3, that's it. That's their ceiling. 3 darkies and no more. Not only is the comment absurd, but the use of a derogatory term just reinforces some of the misled, uninformed and prejudiced views that we are still confronted with as a nation. Around the same time, a New Zealand journalist by the name of Richard Boak wrote a column challenging the white, middle-aged and elderly male rugby supporters with deep underlying racism who characterise Polynesians as being good for speed and power, but not for thinking and decision-making. And this is not something limited to New Zealand. In 2005, Renee Miles' research identified that although black athletes comprise the large majority of student athletes in the Division I college sports of football and basketball, they have not obtained parity in positions within athletic administration. Essentially, black athletes can dominate on the sports field, but have no place in administrative positions. The research goes on to say that some of the factors for this way of thinking include stereotypical beliefs, discrimination, racism, old boys networks, and racial segregation. Prior to our next theory lesson, I want you to do a little bit of research into the following 2 terms: tall poppy syndrome and hubris in sport. One of them is commonplace within New Zealand, the other one is not quite as ingrained. But both of them create a range of issues around violence in sport, and we'll spend some time discussing them in that theory lesson. So to summarize, we defined the term ideology. Then we looked at those two common ideologies within New Zealand, and they were punching above our weight and how sport allows for racial equality, or does it? So please get that brief research down, maybe just a couple of paragraphs on each of those two terms, and maybe your thoughts on them. Complete your whisk sheet, and then we will do some work in our next theory lesson. Cheers.